What's going on, Broncos country? Welcome into a live Broncos Breakdown. Apologies for the technical difficulties for all of 1.2 seconds. But we've got a fun show mapped out for everyone today. I know it's the off season. Things can get a bit dry out there. But hey, we're going to run through some storylines coming out of OTAs from the national media. Plus, we got some trade discussions to be had. Plus, free agency is going to pick up after June 1st when a couple of teams get some post-June 1st money. So you might see an uptick there, and we'll discuss some possible post-June 1 free agent targets for the Broncos. But before we really jump into the show, we want to let everyone click on to today's video. So shout out your city. Let me know where you are tuning in from today. I always love seeing the geography of any fan base, but we know Broncos country is a country. It's not Broncos City. It's not Broncos State. It goes from coast to coast. So let me know where you are tuning in from. I'll be giving shout-outs to everyone who participates and is active in the chat. It's always a two-way conversation here at Chat Sports. We've got Los Angeles from Eric Brown. We've got Juwan Powell saying Williamsburg, Virginia. Mike Mueller's tuning in from Illinois. He's also a Heat fan. So I think we all got to boo Mike in the chat right now. I'm probably going to guess he's the only person who voted for the Heat to win in the finals, which congrats to the Denver Nuggets for, I know this is week-old news, but now that it's really official, because always official, but now that we know who they're playing, the Denver Nuggets are competing in the NBA Finals for the first time in city postseason history. So you had the Avs last year, the Nuggets this year, the Broncos next year. Ain't give me the Rockies. So hey, it's someone's turn. Maryland, Grove City, or Pleasant Grove, Utah. I'll be in Utah tomorrow night. I've got a wedding in Park City, so we'll meet up. Monroe, Louisiana, Boston, Massachusetts, Maryland. We got a Suns fan, OKC from Chase Casper, Mission, Texas from Byron Lewis, Maryland in the house. All right, keep getting those city shout-outs in the chat going. So I want to know, have you liked the start to the Sean Payton era? I know it's only been a couple of OTA practices, but do you have a good feel? Do you have a good sense, right? I know it's really way too early, but if you had to answer the question whether you like or dislike the start to OTAs and just the overall way he's conducting things, how would you vote? Yes or no? I've kind of got to go yes, because I remember doing videos with you guys last year at this time, and I joked about Hackett doing the Kahoot quizzes and said, I love doing Kahoot in high school. That was in high school. If Hackett doesn't work out as a coach, we can probably all agree that early on there were some fatal signs. And Kahoot and Brandon McManus doing a 64-yard field goal were two of the fatal signs. Like, I don't know if he thought being the coach of the Broncos meant that you have the mile-high elevation no matter where you play, but McManus was never going to make a 64-yarder. So I enjoy the start so far of the Sean Payton era. You can really sense a vibe of professionalism with Sean Payton in the house. So let me know. Getting a lot of yeses in there for sure. I'm going to go with yes. Let me know what you guys are thinking. Now, another question. Kind of let the audience build up and go back and forth here. Who you got? Nuggets or Miami? You got to give Heat the credit, right? I mean, they have battled their way as an 8 seed all the way to the finals. Only the second time in NBA history the 8 seed has made it to the NBA Finals. They went up 3-0 against the Celtics, and then they blew that 3-0 lead only to win Game 7. If you're a Nuggets fan, I don't know if you could have scripted a better Eastern Conference Finals. Like, you don't want to play with your food and get too ambitious, but you saw the Heat go up 3-0. So if the Heat were to have swept the Celtics, yes, the rest factor would have been a little bit on the downside, but hey, you weren't going to face the Celtics, which if you had to pick one of those two teams, you'd probably want to face the Heat. But you got Heat to go all the way to 7 and showing some flaws along the way because the Celtics climbed back from a 3-0 hole. So if you're the Nuggets, like, that really could not have gone any better. So who do you got? Denver or Miami? I put all of my BetUS money on the Nuggets to win the series. I wouldn't be blown away if the Heat were to come off a really emotional high in Boston and carry that to Denver, who's been sitting around for a week and maybe a bit rusty, you know what I'm saying? So don't be surprised if the Heat come out and punch the Nuggets in the mouth in the first game. But after that, the Nuggets are going to take over. They are the best team in basketball right now. the Nuggets are winning the series. The Nuggets in 3. Denver in 3. That's what I'm going with. It might be that bad. It might be that big of a sweep. So I'm going with Nuggets in 3. Let me know what you guys are thinking. DEN coming in. Hey, if you have not liked the video, by the way, make sure you go ahead and do so. My partner in crime here at Chat Sports, Marshall Green, loves to say, if you're going to go over to your friend's house, are you going to take your shoes off when you walk in? Because if so, bring that type of manners and courtesy over to our stream. Like the video when you clock in. We got 75 people hanging out with us. Only 16 likes. Come on. Do I have to recreate the entire Wolf of Wall Street scene? Rookie numbers. We're not going to start today's show until we get to 25 likes at least. Now, we do have a mailbag at the tail end of today's show. So if you have any questions, anything about the latest news, rumors, or anything under the sun, really, use hashtag Broncos, or you can super chat. If you enjoy the free content here and you want to throw a little extra dough our way to be an MVP of the show, super chats definitely are very much appreciated and always help to keep the lights on and help to get us more studio space here at Chat Sports. So, hey, if you want to go above and beyond, super chats are never going to be turned down. But if you got any questions at all, hashtag Broncos in the chat, and our software and producer Matthew McCullough will pull that and put it on screen. Now, coming up on today's show, like I said, we're going to touch on the latest news and rumors, and then we're going to look at some post-June 1st free agent targets because that is just around the corner, and then that live Q&A. So, hashtag Broncos Super Chat. Either way, if you Super Chat, you are guaranteed a spot on screen. I should mention that. If you go the hashtag Broncos route, you're just at the producer Matthew McCullough's mercy to figure out which questions he picks. So, that is what we have on tap for you guys today. Once I get the green light for Mr. McCullough, we can jump into a live Broncos breakdown. So, Matthew, we ready? Just about? Okay. We got a whole bunch of Carson saying, let's go Heat. You can't be a Heat and Broncos fan this week. It's just not going to work that way. You just got to ride or die with one of the two cities and check the other team's fandom at the door for a minute. And you should go with the Nuggets. No bias. Okay. We have a green light coming in. Yeah. Rash factor, I agree. All right, we got Denver Broncos in the chat right now. Wow. The official team channel, it sounds like. I have to believe that's the case. Here we go. Let's jump into a live Broncos breakdown. Coming up on today's show, we're going to touch on an interesting idea I saw on the internet of a potential reunion with Shaq Barrett. Could he be coming back to where his career started? And also, is Russell Wilson fighting for his job, as one ESPN analyst put it? We'll be covering that topic as well. And then Pat McAfee offered up his thoughts on Russell Wilson. Now, before we get to all of that, we are closing in on 14,000 subscribers, just over 100 away. Be a part of the 107 people watching right now to help us reach that milestone. If you're looking for a free Broncos YouTube channel, you don't have to go any further. This is the channel for you. Hit that sub button down below. Welcome into the Broncos Breakdown by Chat Sports. Matthew Peterson here, filming today's show during our live show, which airs Tuesdays at 3 o'clock Mountain, 4 o'clock Central. So tune in the future if you have not. But let's jump right into it with Shaq Barrett potentially coming back to Denver. So the word on the street, the buzz, the murmur, the rumor is that Shaq Barrett might be out of the starting lineup in Tampa. Now, for a handful of reasons. One is he might not be medically cleared by the time week 1 rolls around. He's coming off a torn Achilles he suffered in October of last season. So if it's a 10, 11, 12-month recovery, and Achilles injuries can be that, he might not be ready to go week 1. That would not be a surprise at all. But he's turning 31 years old this season, and he's up in the age column. He's coming off an Achilles injury like we just mentioned. But most importantly, Tampa invested a lot in the draft on the defensive line, so it makes you wonder if he's already going to miss the start of the season. They use a couple of picks in the draft on edge rushers and the defensive line. Maybe they decide to let those guys have free reign and ultimately just move on from Shaq Barrett. So when you talk about Shaq Barrett and what he's done in his career, here are his stats. It's interesting, right? We know that Denver lost a good one, letting him leave, ultimately just not being utilized correctly, right? Tampa Bay saw a defensive end. Denver saw a linebacker with maybe some pass rushing upside. but just the overall jump he had. He led the NFL in sacks quickly when he joined the Bucs. 40.5 sacks in way fewer games with Tampa Bay compared to what he did in Denver to start his career. Now, what do the finances look like for a trade for Shaq Barrett? If you move on from him after June 1st, his base salary, which is what Denver would pick up if Tampa Bay did not eat some of the money themselves, which teams often do, $14.2 million. Cap savings of $14.5, dead cap hit of $6.7 million, and a 2024 dead cap of $16.4 million. Now, when you look at Denver's front five, there are some new faces on the street, right? Zach Allen, Tyler Lancaster recently being added. But at the same time, you've got a lot of question marks. Can Randy Gregory play a full season? And if not, can Baron Browning take over as a team's number one edge rusher? If you've got concerns about Zach Allen, who's never gone over 5.5 sacks in his career, and a lot of optimism, but not a lot of proven commodities here, Shaq Barrett is a proven asset. So put your GM hat on, be one of the two Paytons. You can pick which one you think really pulls off the deals in Dove Valley. Should the Broncos trade for Shaq Barrett? Type T for trade or type P for pass. What are your thoughts on this? I'm really curious to see what you guys are thinking, so let me know in the comment section. For me, if it was not for the Achilles injury, I would be in on it. But he's 30 years old. He's coming off an Achilles tear. It just seems like it's not going to work out well. It probably wouldn't cost you that much to get him, but at some point you're either giving up an asset or you're eating a lot of his salary, right? If Tampa Bay is willing to move on and eat all of his money, all of his salary, and also only cost a 6th or 7th rounder, sure, why not? The ceiling is worth it. But I just think those two things mixed together, probably not going to be a good result, unfortunately, for Barrett in 2023. Switching gears, let's talk about Russell Wilson. So ESPN's analyst, Mike Tannenbaum, and if you're unfamiliar with him, he was the Jets GM for a while and then the Dolphins GM for a while, said that Wilson is fighting for his job. Now, Russ, of course, is fighting for his reputation at the very least. He finished last year 27th out of 31 qualifying quarterbacks in QBR at 36.7. Now, I'm not going to stand here and act like he's not fighting for his job, right? Aren't we all always competing for our job, right? Isn't that the nature of sports? But what Tannenbaum was really getting at is the leash is super duper duper short, whereas I think the leash is just a little bit short. This is what he said. Russell Wilson isn't fighting for his legacy, he's fighting for his job. They will draft his replacement if he doesn't do anything, he says, from day one, talking about Sean Payton. But let's take a step back. Mike Tannenbaum, the worst GM we have seen in the last 20 years, is offering up his thoughts and analysis on the NFL. Why do I give a flying you-know-what about what Mike Tannenbaum has to say after his long run of being an awful GM in New York and in Miami? Go talk to a Jets or a Dolphins fan about and ask what they think about Mike Tannenbaum. And that's what I think about just his takes in general. Is he horribly wrong here? Not necessarily, but it's also coming from one of the worst analysts in sports. So you know what, Mike? Shove it. Now, what you don't have to shove are these awesome deals going on at Fanatics. You got a 2-for-1 shirt deal. So don't just get one Broncos t-shirt. You get two, and they're on sale. Chatsports.com/Broncos combo. The link's in the comments and the description of today's video. Be sure to check it out. Now, if you want to move on from Russell Wilson after this season, unlikely. Here are his dead cap hits for the rest of his contract. He's stuck in Denver for 2023, no matter what, $107 million. I also think he'll be on this roster in 2024 unless Denver wants to have more than double an NFL record dead cap hit of $85 million. The only way I see Denver moving on from Russ after 2023 is if he has another down season and Denver says, listen, we're benching you. Unless you want to agree to just, tear up your contract, you're stuck here as a backup quarterback. So for that reason, Russ is here through 2024. The only path is, like I just said, if he is, bad this year and the head coach, Sean Payton, and the GM, the front office all say, we're benching you, we're drafting a quarterback, you're going to be the most expensive backup quarterback in NFL history, but we can't continue to start you anymore. The only way you get out of here is unless you agree to rip up your contract, which if I'm Russ, Why the heck would I do that with all the money coming my way? But as for some, greener pastures, this is what Pat McAfee had to say on his recent show. Now, was Russell Wilson bulking up last year for a reason? Did he think that it would make him a more durable player or a better player? Or did he potentially just not worry about it at all as much with everything else going on in his life? This year, obviously, it's a focal point, and I think it's good news for Denver Broncos fans when it comes to Wilson's weight loss. And you can see the pictures for yourselves. Last year, I didn't think Russ looked fat at all. If you're an NFL athlete and you're not playing on the offense or defensive line, I think you're always going to look in much better shape than me. But you can really notice, like, the jawline, just overall snugger jersey and everything last year. This year, it's a lot more free flow, and, like, he looks like he shed some poundage. So shout out to Russ for actually sticking to his New Year's diet where none of us get past week 1 or 2 of it. But if I had to project what Russell Wilson's going to do this season, I know no one asked me this question, but screw it, why not? I think he's going to be about a 65% completion percentage, uptick from last year. Some more yardage, but still not going to be a 4,000-yard passer. Up in the touchdown area, and the interception still around 10-ish, so double digits. So will be towards the bottom half, or, worst half of the league, if you will, from starting quarterbacks. But I think Russ is going to improve under Sean Payton. I don't know if Sean Payton can make him that Pro Bowl quarterback he was for so long in Seattle after just one offseason. Now, who do you think has the better 2023 season? Russell Wilson or Derek Carr? Both quarterbacks with some storylines, right? New team for Derek Carr. Russell Wilson's on to his third offense, right? Shane Waldron, Nathaniel Hackett, and now Sean Payton, like 3 different offensive schemes and minds in 3 straight seasons. Who do you think has a better season? Let me know by typing their jersey number down below. That's going to do it for us on today's show. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, hanging out with us. We'll see you later here on the Broncos Breakdown. So, should the Broncos trade for Shaq Barrett? Does a reunion make sense with Denver needing to add another edge rusher or 2? What are your thoughts here? Well, when it comes to Derek Carr versus Russell Wilson, the room appears to be kind of split on this one. We also got 120 people hanging out with us right now, but just 50 likes. We always shoot for 50% in likes. So we need 10 more people to like today's video before we jump into our next segment, which is all about post-June 1st free agent targets. So hit that thumbs up button if you have not already. So the Broncos trade for Shaq Barrett, or when it comes to Russell Wilson versus Derek Carr, I'm kind of leaning towards Russell Wilson. I've just never been a big DC believer. He probably is going to be one of those quarterbacks that when you look at just the raw stats and it's a blind quarterback resume, he surprises most people. But I have not seen Derek Carr have a signature Derek Carr moment where he puts this team on his back and leads them to glory, right? If he has one of those, for every one, there's 10 disastrous Raiders collapses. So I don't see it translating over to the Big Easy. Eddie Martinez is in the house. What's going on, Eddie? Trade for the right price. Agree that if you are trading for Shaq Barrett, it can't cost you much. You're going to ask the Bucs to eat some of his salary. And if you're Tampa Bay, maybe you're a little excited to get the young guy some more reps and kind of move on from at least some of his big contract remaining as he is coming off a Achilles tear. I'm Frey is in the house. Good to see you, I'm Frey. We're also 5 likes away from reaching 60 likes. We need 5 more people to like the video before we jump into our next segment here. Juwan Powell thinks that Russ will have a better season. We got Ryan here. Salgado saying Russ is ready. I sure hope so. He needs to be ready, right? This team needs Russell Wilson to be everything he is supposed to be if they want to be competitive in 2023. All right, we're almost at 60 likes, just a few more away, and then we got post-June 1 free agent targets. Denver only each team gets 2 post-June 1 designations. They just used one of their 2 on Brandon McManus. That freed up an extra $1.25-ish million as opposed to just outright cutting him right now. So you might see Denver spend some money. Sean Payton surely talked about that, and we'll look at that. 1 like away from 60 likes, and then we're going. CM, what are you doing in Park City tomorrow? I'm going to Park City on Saturday. Got a friend's wedding. I got my girlfriend's coworker's wedding. It's black tie. I had to rent a tux. Went to Men's Warehouse yesterday. It was an epic disaster, and I knew it would be too because it was a disaster when I was renting my tux. And when I left there, I'm like, are we all good? And they're like, yeah, it'll be fine. Don't worry. Sure enough, I showed up a shit show, nevertheless. But I used to live up in Wyoming, so I also spent a day driving back to my old stomping grounds in Evanston. So that's what I got on tap for my trip coming up here. All right, we crossed 60 likes. Let's go. Let's jump into segment number 2. McCullough, you ready on the ones and twos? All right, everyone, here we go. Welcome into the Broncos Breakdown by Chat Sports. Matthew Peterson here with some post-June 1st free agent targets. We're filming this on Tuesday during our live show. Every Tuesday, 3 o'clock Mountain, 4 o'clock Central. But hey, it's post-June 1, which means a handful of teams have some extra money to spend because teams sometimes, like Denver, designate players as a post-June 1st cut, and that allows them to spread the dead cap hit for that player over 2023 and 2024. And Sean Payton, after cutting Brandon McManus, said this: the transactions continue here from now until training camp, and there may be a player or two we're still looking to sign. So we factored a lot of that in, and then we made that decision. Now, Denver's post-June 1st cap space is going to be around $13 million. Now, remember, just because they were to sign a player, just say to a 1-year, $13 million contract, doesn't mean they're now at zero in cap space, right? Teams can put a lot of money into signing bonus to lower that cap hit. They can even use void years to spread the contract out. So just because they only have $13 million to spend doesn't mean they are locked at, maxing out at $13 million. The cap hit can't be over $13 million. So let's jump into some of our free agent targets after June 1. Yannick Ngakoue starts it off. Let's also toss in Frank Clark. And then there's another edge rusher still on the market, Leonard Floyd. Now, hopefully by the time you're watching this, none of these 3 guys have been signed, or else you can kind of skip over those parts. But those are 3 premier edge rushers that, frankly, I'm surprised are still on the market. And Denver's front 5, I think, is good. I'm going to leave it at that. It's good. You can be great by adding one of those 3 players, I believe. Because Randy Gregory and Baron Browning, I don't believe, can be accounted on to be 17-game players and double-digit sack guys with Gregory's track record and Browning just last year making the transition from inside linebacker to outside linebacker. So where does Yannick Ngakoue or Frank Clark or Leonard Floyd fit in? Here are their stats from last season. You can see all 3 players had 8 sacks or more. That was more than any player on Denver's current roster last season, right? Randy Gregory only played a handful of games. Zach Allen got 5.5 sacks. Baron Browning didn't touch 8 sacks. 9.5, 5 sacks, and 9 sacks for Leonard Floyd. Those tackles for loss. But 2 of those 3 guys, my bad, got 9 sacks or more. I got confused by tackles for loss. But nevertheless, they still could benefit by adding another edge rusher. Now, if I had to pick one of those 3 guys, I'm leaning Leonard Floyd. He's coming off his 3rd straight 9+ sack season with the Rams. He also has experience in a 3-4 defensive front. He played under Vic Fangio in Chicago, who brought that defense over to Denver, and it has more or less stuck around through Evero and now Vance Joseph. So Leonard Floyd would not be entering a dramatic schematical change. Now, he also has been very available, which I can't say the same for Randy Gregory or Baron Browning so far, or Zach Allen in his career. Floyd has not missed a game in 5 straight seasons. So there's a big factor that goes into banking on Randy Gregory and Baron Browning. It's not just can they be double-digit sack guys. Can they play a full season? I feel a lot more confident in Leonard Floyd doing that than the rest of this Broncos roster. So be the GM for me. Should the Broncos sign Leonard Floyd? I'm typing Y for yes. Want to know what you're thinking, though. Do you disagree with me? Are you on my team here? Sound off in the comment section. Do you think Denver should go out and sign Floyd? Let me know what your thoughts are down below. Now, when it comes to some of the other guys out there, but Leonard Floyd, to zero in on, look at what he's done over the last 4 seasons. Like I said, coming over from Chicago after 2019, blossomed in the City of Angels. 10.5 sacks, 9.5 sacks, 9 sacks. He has been a very productive player. And when you stack him up against the rest of the Broncos pass rushing unit, here's how he fares. 9 sacks last year. Randy Gregory and Baron Browning combined for 7. Zach Allen definitely showed a lot of promise and an improvement from year 1 to 2 to 3 and so on. But still, his ceiling so far has been 5.5 sacks. So Denver is hoping he can take a big step forward. But we still have a little bit of reason to believe. Got to see it to believe it, right? Leonard Floyd, I've seen it. And I believe that he can be a valuable addition to this team. Now, you can also add BetUS to your sports book rotation. If you're looking to put some money down on the NBA postseason, the NBA Finals, or the NHL Stanley Cup Finals, make all of your picks over at chatsports.com/bet. Our promo code Broncos125 will get you guys a 125% deposit bonus. So in English, if you put $100 in, BetUS sees that 100, matches it with another 100, and then they tack on an additional 25. So now you have $225 to play with, whether it's on the Nuggets or any other team out there. Just make sure you use our link, chatsports.com/bet, and promo code Broncos125 when signing up. Denver has been busy this offseason, right? The Walton Penner wallets are very deep. The pockets are bottomless. And they've already spent a lot of money. So I wouldn't be shocked if George and Sean Payton decide we've already had our fun in free agency. We spent more than any other team did in terms of total money spent, total value, right? 87.5 on Mike McGlinchey. That's the most after Derek Carr, if I remember correctly. Ben Powers fetched more than $50 million. Zach Allen, 47. Singleton casually gets $18 million. Even the backup quarterback gets $10 million. So I can see why Denver might feel like they're somewhat tapped out. But then again, Sean Payton did just say we might be looking to sign another guy. Let's move on to our next pair of free agent targets. Other side of the football, running back, Ezekiel Elliott and Kareem Hunt. Now, Zeke is a post-June 1 cut by Dallas, so he can sign once he's actually officially through the waiver wire, through the transaction wire released after June 1. Kareem Hunt is just a free agent, but these two guys are still looking for homes, and last season, they're just names. Like, they are just recognizable names at this point. Both players average under 4 yards a carry. Both of them appear to be towards the twilight of their career. Can they still find some yards and touchdowns in an offense? Sure. We just watched Latavius Murray have maybe one of his best seasons in the last 5 years at the age of 33. But if you watch either of these two players, it looked like they just struggled to get around the corner, and they were more or less not in favor with their own team. Sean Payton did add this when it comes to Javonte Williams' rehab. I would tell you that we expect him to be ready for the start of training camp, and that's good news. His rehab is going well. I don't want to speak for him or Bo or anyone else, but we get the daily reports. And look, we're pretty tight-lipped relative to information going out, but I've read a lot, and I think his rehab's going well. And this was before Javonte Williams was limited during OTA. So a lot of good signs that Williams will be ready to go by the start of the season, which is incredible if you really think about it for what he has battled through so far to get back on the field already. So the only way I see Denver adding Kareem Hunt or Ezekiel Elliott or any other running back is if Kareem Hunt has a setback, right? KJ Hamler last year was ready to go for week 1 until he wasn't ready to go, right? And then he was on and off the active roster for the next couple of weeks as he kind of pushed his return and wasn't really 100% and couldn't run 100%. So while Williams is just limited right now, he might remain just limited to start the season, where he's really not 100% all the way there. And that's really the only path I see where if Javonte Williams tells the coaching staff, I'm ready to go, put me in, and he starts going, it's like, whoa, slow down, old Nelly. I'm not ready to go. Because it's happened before. J.K. Dobbins came back from a similar injury like Javonte Williams for the Ravens last year, missed the first couple of weeks of the season, then he came back and played, and then he got surgery on his knee again. So, like, these things do happen. Don't take Javonte Williams being limited in OTAs as it's a proven fact he will be 100% ready to go week 1 as this team's starting running back. Some other free agents still on the market. Leonard Floyd at running back. Ben Jones, if he's willing to come up to Denver, I feel like he's closer to retiring than going to a team he doesn't know if they are really one center away from winning a Super Bowl. Dalton Risner, if you want to kick Quinn Miners to center and move Risner to right guard, I don't hate that offensive line combination. Chris Hubbard could be a good swing tackle, although it did sign Cam Fleming, but you never know. Marcus Peters, if, I don't know, Damari Mathis or Riley Moss aren't looking the part. Again, they don't really need any of these guys necessarily, but Sean Payton did say they're maybe looking to sign one or two. Shelby Harris could be fun. Stephen Weatherly, remember they traded him to Pittsburgh, so don't rule out a potential reunion if Denver liked Weatherly in the locker room. Carl Nassib, kind of a cheaper defensive end compared to the first three guys we talked about, so there are definitely some more affordable options out there. Now, who do you want to sign? Is it one of the 15 players we looked at today? Is it someone else? Sound off for me in the comment section below who you would like to see the Payton duo sign in free agency. That's going to do it for us on today's show. I always appreciate people that take time out of their day to join us. And hey, if you made it all the way to the end of the video, real MVP shout out to you for not tapping out halfway through. So type real one down in the comment section below. It's the rally cry here at Chat Sports. And I want to know who the real ones are that watch the video all the way to the end. Do we have Raiders fans in the chat right now? I kind of saw that out of the corner of my eye during the video, and I'm starting to get the sense that we might have been invaded by Raider Nation, who, by the way, should probably focus on who their starting quarterback week 1 will be, because I don't know if Jimmy Garoppolo is even going to be on this roster. So you might be enjoying the AOC show, Aiden O'Connell. That sounds like it has no chance of being a disaster with Josh McDaniels as the head coach. We also got a super chat during the video. Let's go. Malache W. I hope I pronounced that correctly. First time super chatter. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. We should trade away Sutton for a second. We have a ton of good wide receivers. Judy, Patrick, Mims, Hamler, Hinton, Virgil, etc. We can use the cap on an edge rusher. We'll use this question to start off our mailbag. I don't disagree with what you're saying. I think you're going to find it to be difficult to find a team that wants to pay Courtland Sutton and trade away a second-round pick. That's probably the hang-up. I don't think it's Denver not wanting to move on from him as much as, is there any other team out there that wants to trade away a second for a guy like Courtland Sutton, who has been relatively underwhelming for his contract the last 2 years, and take on his contract? Like, that's probably the bigger issue you're running into because, like you pointed out, Denver is loaded at wide receiver, so they could stand to move on from one of these wide receivers and get a pick for next year. When they've got their first back, they don't have a second because that went to New Orleans for Sean Payton. They had 2 thirds, one from New Orleans, one from themselves. They traded one of those thirds away to Seattle to get Riley Moss. So you got a first and a third through the first 2 days of next year's draft. If they can add a second, first, second, and third, you're just par for the course right there. That works with me. We'll have this question to start our mailbag, though, and I'll answer it once again for everyone watching to see. Now, if you have not already, get those questions in, hashtag Broncos, or you can super chat like my new best friend Malache just did to get a shout out on the show. So appreciate all of our super chatters. Always helps to keep the show going here. They go a long way to help the Broncos Breakdown, get some extra studio space and whatnot here at Chat Sports. Mr. McCullough, we good on questions? Could we stand to add a couple more, you think? Maybe a few more. That's what the big boss man upstairs has to say. So get those questions in. Hashtag Broncos. Use that in your question in the chat, and our software can pull it and then put it on screen for everyone to say. Italiano Stallone. Go Broncos. Raiders and Kansas City suck. This guy Fox. I like this guy already. He's got the sports car emblem right there. Oh, he's got the Ferrari logo. I love it. I love it. We got someone tuning in from Reno, Nevada. Malache W. When will a kicker be chosen? Use hashtag Broncos in your question in the chat. Just copy and paste it, but hashtag Broncos in, because without it, the computer can't pull it from the live chat and put it on screen. Technology's good. Not quite that good, though. So you got to use hashtag Broncos like I'm Frey just did right there. Well, he's just screaming at hashtag Broncos, and then we'll put it on screen. So with that being said, I think we are ready to jump into a live Broncos mailbag. We ready to go? Got the green light? Okay. If you got any questions and you want to kind of like beat the buzzer, super chat, and then it's guaranteed to go on screen. Now, let's jump into a mailbag. Mailbag time here at the Broncos Breakdown by Chat Sports. Matthew Peterson fielding and answering the questions you guys have during our live show Tuesday at 3 o'clock Mountain Time, 4 o'clock Central. So tune in. And if anything I say gets a bit dated over the next couple of days, just roll with the punches. But our first question coming in via Super Chat from Malache W. We should trade away Courtland Sutton for a second. We have a ton of good wide receivers: Jerry Jeudy, Tim Patrick, Marvin Mims, KJ Hamler, Kendall Hinton, Jalen Virgil, etc. We can use the cap on an edge rusher. And I think this is a fair idea to have, and not a bad one necessarily. I think the issue is no team wants to trade a second for Courtland Sutton. And how do I know that? This was a pretty bad wide receiver class. How do I know that? The Biletnikoff winner, Jalen Hyatt, went in round 3. The nation's best college football wide receiver last year was the 73rd pick in the draft. That is what the NFL thought of this wide receiver class. So if no one wanted Courtland Sutton for a second, which was better than the wide receivers going in round 2 back in April, who are you finding now? But I don't disagree with the idea of you're loaded at wide receiver. You have a first and a third in next year's draft. Your second belongs to New Orleans. Why not get back to even par and get a first, second, and third for what's probably going to be a pretty important draft if things don't go well in 2023? So I don't disagree. I just don't know if you're going to find a team who wants to give up a second. I'm Frey. What's going on? Who do you think will come in first, second, third, and fourth in the AFC West? All right, got some prediction time here. First, until proven otherwise, I'll go with the Chiefs. They've won it X many years in a row. I don't even want to count at this point. I'll go with Kansas City. Second, I'm going to go with the Chargers, although the Chargers are always good to Charger. So never rule out them bottoming out. I'll go Denver third and Vegas fourth. I think the Raiders are going to be bottom 3 team in football. They might be picking first in the draft. I think they might be that bad this year. Wilson's burner idea: sign DeAndre Hopkins and trade Courtland Sutton. So kind of like the question we had a little bit earlier on. Okay. Interesting idea. Hopefully by the time you're watching this, D-Hop has not been signed, but I don't disagree with it at the surface level, right? I mean, for starters, compare Courtland Sutton and DeAndre Hopkins over their last 3 seasons played. For Sutton, I went back to 2019 because, well, he only played 1 game for the ACL injury. And, I mean, Sutton's got a couple more yards, but he's also played 14 more games than DeAndre Hopkins in that time span. So, yeah, no one's going to really argue that Courtland Sutton is better than D-Hop. So, Wilson's burner, I don't know if this is Russell Wilson, and if so, I could see why maybe you'd rather have DeAndre Hopkins than Courtland Sutton over what he's done the last few seasons. But it's not one of the worst ideas in the world. Again, can you find someone to trade for Courtland Sutton? Don't be shocked if the Lions end up picking up the phone in training camp, right? What if Detroit's like, we're there, but Jameson Williams is suspended for the first 6 games of the season. We want to really make sure Jared Goff has everything to be successful. The NFC North has never been more wide open without Aaron Rodgers. Let's get it done. Let's just find a way to get it done. And if that happens, Diop's probably gone at that point, but I think the stars won't align for Hopkins to come to Denver. But if they could find a way to move on from Sutton and someone's willing to give up a second-round pick for him, yeah, I'll take Hopkins in a second over Courtland Sutton. I'd be crazy not to. So what do you guys think? Would you sign D-Hop and trade Sutton like Russell Wilson's burner suggested? Yes or no? I'm typing away for yes. Like, how can I not pick D-Hop in a second over Sutton? Like, yes, Sutton is a younger player and he's got maybe a longer runway left in him, but I just haven't seen enough in the last 2 seasons to believe Courtland Sutton is going to really turn a corner and live up to this extension and not just potentially be cut after 2023. Malache W. When will a kicker be chosen? Well, maybe by the time you're watching this, there's already one that's been chosen. If so, you can just fast forward a couple seconds. I know that before Memorial Day weekend, Mike Kliss from 9 News reported that no kicker announcement will be made until after Memorial Day weekend. It's Tuesday right now, so no kicker has been signed as of yet. They might be doing some more tryouts. The first batch didn't go well, but I think it's going to happen soon. They want to have a kicker on this roster. Denver Broncos official YouTube account, I have to believe. Thoughts on trying to trade for someone like A.J. Terrell? Wow, so add another star corner to pair with Pat Surtain. I don't think that's going to happen for one big reason. they moved up to get Riley Moss. When you move up to get a cornerback, you clearly see something in them. I don't see them turning around and using more draft capital to get another cornerback. Plus, the Falcons aren't moving on from A.J. Terrell. So I know you said like A.J. Terrell, even if it's someone sort of at his level. We saw Jalen Ramsey get moved this offseason, but he went to a contending team. I don't know if Denver really is a one-star cornerback away from going on a deep postseason run. They've got a star cornerback in Pat Surtain. That got him 5 wins last year. So is adding another star cornerback going to add a whole lot of wins to this team? I don't think so. I'd rather save that draft capital and use it in 2024 if you're looking to reset a little bit if Russell Wilson isn't all that this season. Eddie Martinez, what's going on, dude? What are the chances we see new uniforms next season? So Damani Leach, the new team president, has talked about team uniforms. He's just been like, I don't know, Kelly Kapoor, like fashion show at lunch. Like new uniform talk, new stadium talk. He has the best job right now. He's basically playing real-life Sims and Madden all at once. So what are the chances? More than 0. Like more than 10 probably, right? The uniforms, I think, are good. They could be better, right? You've seen a lot of teams recently change their uniforms. The Jets, the Falcons, the Titans, the Seahawks, right? Seahawks even feel kind of long ago at this point. So it's not out of the question. So what are the chances? If I had to really put a number at it with no good explanation behind it, 40%. We down for 40%, Eddie. Now make sure to subscribe, by the way, if you have not already. That way, the next time we go live here on the channel like we are right now, you don't miss the notification. You're part of the mailbag, and you can have your questions asked and for everyone to see. So subscribers only, hit that sub button to be on future Broncos Breakdown mailbags. Ooh, back-to-back Eddie Martinez questions. Will Stidham start a game for the Broncos this season? I'm going to assume you're asking this through the lens of not factoring in injuries. Because if Russ gets hurt, that, of course, changes everything. But will Jarrett Stidham eventually get the starting nod for a week? I don't believe so. I just don't know if he's better than Russell Wilson, right? Like, yeah, it's one thing if they have a Brock Purdy, kind of a snake in their grass on this roster, but Stidham showed some potential in a few starts down in Vegas last year, but I ultimately think Denver will say, we're just paying way too much for Russell Wilson to get benched. Like, Sean Payton figured out, we hired you to resurrect what George gave $200+ million to. We didn't hire you to then bench that $200 million quarterback. You see what I'm saying? I think ultimately Sean Payton has a lot of power, but I don't know if he's got the power to bench that expensive of a quarterback unless things get real ugly. Payton's promised land. Any chance the Broncos trade for Budda Baker to reunite him with Vance Joseph? We've already had one, carpool from Arizona to Denver with Zach Allen following Vance Joseph, VJ up to Mile High. Any chance? I guess so, just because I know that Denver was kind of looking for a safety in free agency. They ultimately did not get a CJ Gardner-Johnson. And if they don't feel great about their room, but then again, look at the safety depth chart. They just re-signed Kareem Jackson. I'm going to put this, maybe not 0%, because if we've learned anything from this new regime, they're going to be aggressive, and if they think they can make a move to better themselves, they won't pass on it. But they drafted J.L. Skinner. They re-signed Kareem Jackson. I think Budda Baker's probably just a bit too rich for them. He's a very good player. You look at his stats over the last 4 seasons. 2 interceptions, 3 interceptions. He's one of the best safeties in the league, no denying it. But you don't re-sign Kareem Jackson just to trade assets away to get Budda Baker. That just doesn't seem to be a great managerial practice right there. So I don't think it's very likely at all. But if you disagree with me, that's fine. You can just let me know in the comment section. Would you trade for Budda Baker? He's definitely one of the best safeties, and him, Surtain, and Justin Simmons could create quite the no-fly zone for the next couple of years because K-Jack has just been living off 1-year contracts, but I think it's just out of the cards for Denver after re-signing K-Jack. Oh, boy. Niles Boffin. I hope I pronounced that correctly. From Germany, what's going on? What do you think about fantasy value of Samaje Perine? I think he's got good value depending on when you find him in the draft, right? What are most drafts? Like 16 rounds deep, 15, 14, something like that. So if Samaje Perine is hanging around in rounds 9, 10, 11, you've already filled out all your starters. If other teams aren't all that aware of the Javonte Williams injury situation and you're the only Broncos fan in your fantasy league, you could find a Alexander Madison, right? A backup that you know is likely going to get some starting time. Jamal Williams, whatever it may be. There are always those A.J. Dillon. They just keep popping into my head right now. Backup running backs who always just find a way to crack the starting lineup for at least some time. So I wouldn't reach on him because he might just be a backup running back when it's all said and done. But I like Perine after round 9 probably. So I think that could be a good value pick that late in the draft. Now, today's show, by the way, was made possible thanks to BetUS. Our sportsbook partner has your back. Go to chatsports.com/bet. Use our promo code Broncos125. When you do that, with the link and the promo code, they give Broncos Country a 125% deposit bonus. So make sure you use that link and that promo code to get that deposit bonus. Question coming in from OddF182. And then we got a super chat coming up next, too. Do you think the Broncos should get rid of Randy Gregory for some draft picks? George Paton is not moving on from his marquee free agency signing after one season. Like, he wants to see it play out at least for one more year. 5-year, $70 million contract, just $28 million guaranteed. So there's not a lot of dead money out there after 2023. So they could move on from him. But one, his trade value has never been lower. Like, what team is lining up to call for Randy Gregory after he played 6 games last season and he had 2 sacks? Like, you're not getting much for him. The only way I see Randy Gregory getting dealt is if it's a similar situation with Bradley Chubb. Good start to the season. Team isn't winning. It's in the best interest to recoup some assets, but they're not making a move preseason. Like, at this point, you're not getting much for him, so you might as well hold on to him and hope he can live up to the contract. Kitchener Leslie. Who should the new Broncos kicker be? If I had to handpick one myself, Robbie Gould would probably be my number one choice. I don't think he's going to come to Denver. He's either going to be a 49er or a Bear, or he's going to retire. I think that's really his only, his desires at this point in his career. Brett Maher was so good with the Cowboys last year up until the postseason. And it's playing with fire, right? It's kind of like signing Cody Parkey after the double doink. Like, good in the regular season for the most part. Maher was better than Parkey in the regular season that year. But also, you want to get the yips master, right? You want to get the guy who would miss 5 of 6 extra points. Maybe he can put it behind him. Daniel Carlson did that. The Vikings GM, former GM, Spielman, said his biggest regret was cutting Bailey, Carlson, who has been awesome with the Raiders so far. So you do see a change of scenery help. I think I'll go with Brett Maher because there's not really another great option. Ryan Suckup wouldn't be too far behind. But if you don't make the playoffs, it's not a problem. Because Maher is awesome in the regular season. If you do make the playoffs, go for it on 2-point attempts. That's my solution. Last question coming in, budget breakdown NFL. I'm not too concerned on clearing cap space for Surtain. We have a lot of guys who need to prove stuff to stay on the team. Those include Judy, Sutton, Bowles, Hamler, Wilson. Cut those who can't perform. So I think what budget breakdown is getting here is Pat Surtain, after his 3rd NFL season, will be eligible to get a contract extension, and he's going to be the highest paid corner when that time comes. Right now, that belongs to Jair Alexander, a 5-year, $100.5 million contract. Pat Surtain's going to get a 5-year, let's just say $5 million contract. Kind of keep the math easy. And if that's the case, Denver's currently in the red next year. They will have to reshuffle the cards a little bit. And Cortland Sutton and Tim Patrick, those are 2 prime cut candidates. I don't see a way this entire wide receiver room returns next year. KJ Hamler has a very low cap hit. You're not saving much money there. If you want to save money, it's not Judy because he just picked up his 5th-year option. It's moving on from Cortland Sutton and Garrett Bowles and maybe taking that first-round pick and drafting a brand new left tackle, which Garrett Bowles, coming off a fractured leg, doesn't look like the 2020 Bowles he was that breakout season. I don't dislike the idea of moving on from Cortland Sutton and Garrett Bowles and you already drafted one of their replacements with Marvin Mims. You draft Bowles' replacement next year, and poof, you've maybe even improved this roster from, via addition via subtraction. You guys know the saying. That's going to do it for us on this mailbag. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, making us a part of your day. We will sign off and let you enjoy the rest of your day. So what do you guys think? Would you trade for Budda Baker? Huh? I'm passing. I think Budda Baker's a good player, but Denver is not an older veteran away from doing anything this year, right? I think they should try and stay competitive for 2023, win the home games, do well on the road, go 500 on the road or something, and look forward to either Russell Wilson bouncing back and going on a nice run with a good roster you have right now, or if he doesn't bounce back, on to 2024. On to the picks you have next year. Don't start trading away more future picks and be the Rams without the ring. That is the nightmare. You can't be the Rams without the ring. Another question. Who do you think will win week 1, Broncos or Raiders? I already know the answer, just need your input. I think Denver. Like I said, I think the Raiders are going to be the worst team in football. Kind of going through my head here of teams that will be atrocious next season. The Raiders are up there for me. The Bucs have a really good chance of being the worst team in football if Baker or Kyle Trask does not work out. But they've got a really talented team. Like Chris Godwin and Mike Evans can let that offense be the worst team in football. Maybe not. They still have a lot of good pieces on defense, so I don't know if the Bucs could be that bad. But the Raiders, I think, are going to suck cheeks. So I'm going to go Denver. I know the Raiders have had Denver's number the last couple of seasons, but give me the Broncos week 1, no questions asked. Eddie Martinez. Now, we'll keep the show going if we get some super chats. Otherwise, it's a democracy here at Chat Sports. It's a, what's the word? Monarchy? Whatever it's called when the king gets to kick out the peasants, because that's how it works. What's the chance we pick up Elliott on a 1-year deal to help Javonte Williams recover? Not zero, but it sounds like Denver's pretty optimistic about Williams returning soon, and they got their guy to help Williams recover. That was Samaje Perine. They want to add another running back? I don't know, Jim. I don't think it's super likely at this point, but I can't quite rule it out because it does seem like Denver is good for a couple more signings. Eric Brown, what's going on, dude? Coming from a sad Laker fan, I want Heat in 7. It's off to a bad start. But we all know it's going to be Nuggets in 5. Yeah, I put all my money down on the Nuggets winning. Bet responsibly, bet US. On the Nuggets winning the series. Didn't get cheeky with it. Didn't go with an exact Nuggets in 4, 5, 6, or 7. The Nuggets are going to win the series. It might be Nuggets in 3. I wouldn't be shocked if the Heat actually, like I said at the top of the show, shocked Denver game 1 coming off that high with the Nuggets being a bit rusty. And the Heat are like, boom, we stole game 1. We're already playing with house money. And then the Nuggets rattle off 4 straight wins. Wouldn't be shocked about that at all. I'm Frey. What's going on? I became a Broncos fan at like 3. I remember all my dad's side of the family always having Broncos gear, and now I'm the biggest Broncos fan. Really touching story right there, I'm Frey. Appreciate that. Love to see that. Let me know when you guys became Broncos fans down in the comment section. 0, smell my finger 0. I was born in 91, so I had that blue and orange runs in my veins. Being what, 6, 7, 8 years old for a Super Bowl? Like, what do you guys think is the best age to be to, as a fan, watch your team win a Super Bowl? I wouldn't want to be under 18. You'd want to celebrate it, right? I think I'd want to go with a solid 22. 22 sounds like a good age to enjoy a championship. Let me know what you guys think. Now, if we don't get a super chat, we will have to sign off here. But if you want to be an MVP, you want to do a solid for the rest of the crew here and keep the show going, super chat, and we'll keep the studio lights on, and we'll be able to hold on to Studio E today. Otherwise, we'll have to keep things moving on here. We got more from Smell My Finger. DJ Williams is my uncle. We got some royalty in the house. That's pretty dope right there, man. Wow. I don't know if to believe you or not because it's YouTube commenters, but I'll take your word for it. Odd F182. Do you think the Broncos should trade Gregory for future picks in the draft? We talked about this already, but no, his value has never been lower, right? You might as well hold on to him and hope it works out. Oh, we got Super Chat coming in. Let's go. Malache W. Am I pronouncing that correctly? Malache? I hope I am. I will throw that on screen for you in just a moment. There it is. Malachi makes way more sense. Producer McCall in my ears like, you moron. Malachi, yeah. You think we might be in on Caleb Williams? Are you going to be one of the 3 worst teams in football? Right? We always assume that the quarterback, like, Bryce Young was supposed to be the number 1 pick last year, like, for this, like, 2 years ago for this past draft. You know what I'm saying? And he was. But I remember Sam Howell was supposed to be that. I remember Matt Barkley was supposed to be that. It didn't always work out that way. Sam Darnold was another one like that. So I don't think Denver's going to be that bad. I just don't see Sean Payton allowing this team to be a 1, 2, or 3 win team. And you're likely have to be in that range to land Caleb Williams, right? I wouldn't be shocked if Denver's kind of like the Falcons last year. What if they're a 7-10 team? They're picking 8, 9, or 10-ish, somewhere in that range. And they're just too far back to jump up and get the star quarterback, unless they want to do what the Panthers did and give up a ton of assets. And maybe they do that, but they also would be signing off on getting rid of 2 future firsts at least to get to Caleb Williams' range. And I don't know if they want to run it back with 2 years out of first for Russell Wilson and Sean Payton, and then another 2 years because of Caleb Williams. That's a tough way to construct a roster. Malachi, thank you so much for the super chat. That dude, Mr. 1, do you think the tight ends will be more involved this season for the Broncos? I was shocked they only had a few plays last season when I feel like they are very underrated. Greg Dulcich missed the first 5 games of the season with a hammy, and I do think that he'll be in line for a bigger workload. You got to think about New Orleans and what Sean Payton did with his tight ends. He had Jimmy Graham, which when you have a player like Jimmy Graham, you're going to use him, of course. But after that, does anyone else really remember the Saints having a big tight end incorporated into their offense? Not a ton. Like, you had Jared Cook, I remember, for a little while, but by and large, not necessarily. So I think Dulcich could be a 600-yard guy, maybe 700-yard guy. But that seems kind of high, 4 or 5 touchdowns. I don't know if he's going to go on a tear and be be the league's next Gronk or anything like that. So I don't think if you do see an increase of tight end usage, it'll be dramatic by any means. All right, that is going to do it for us. Unless we get another super chat, Malachi's been carrying the workload so far. So if someone else wants to pick up the lunch pail and help him out, we will sign off. Italiano Stellano. Let's hope we have great players. What a very nice note to end on right there. I hope everyone has fun. I want everyone to win. This has been awesome. Thank you guys so much for taking time out of your day to come hang out with us, join us here, support the channel. Malachi, our other super chatters, thank you guys so much for supporting the show. We're going to sign off. We're going to catch up with everyone later. Until later, see you guys next time.